What are the whiskies that you must try before you die? Well, there are tons of lists out there, so what I decided to do is ask you, the First Fill fam, thousands of whiskey enthusiasts over Discord, Instagram, here on YouTube, about which whiskies do you think people must try before they die? And the results were super interesting and kind of like got it down to the top 10, the things that keep coming up and up again. So if that interests you, if you want to know the whiskies that you probably should try, get yourself comfy, come on in, and let's get to number 10. So in this list, there is a range of whiskies from like expensive whiskies to cheap whiskies. I would say this is kind of in the middle, probably a little bit more on the expensive end. But if you can't afford this one coming up, there are plenty more, which I think are much more in the affordable range. There are a lot of you who talked about this whiskey, about how special it is, what it means, how it also makes a really good gift, and it's just such a unique bottle of whiskey. It is going to be in 10th place, the Glenmorangie Signet. This is one to try before you die, and honestly, like when I have my closest friends visit or family, this is likely what we'll end up pouring. Like if I know if it's a special time, it's a special night, it's not one I've like ever sipped by myself, or you know, like on a random Friday watching a movie. That's not really why I use this whiskey. So I can see why people say that the Glenmorangie Signet is definitely one that you should try before you die. So just briefly, this one's bottled at 46%, unchill filtered, natural color. What makes this unique? Well, first of all, the packaging. Like it feels like a 30-year-old whiskey, but not as expensive. And although I do know the packaging's changed recently, and I haven't bought a new one because there's only so many of these I can buy with my budget. But the other thing that makes this really interesting is they roast the barley, sort of similar to how you roast like coffee beans, and it has like this dark chocolate coffee flavor. And this is one of the whiskies that works with people who pretty much never drink whiskey and people who drink a lot of whiskey, the whiskey geeks. You can buy it for someone who's a real whiskey enthusiast. There's not many whiskeys that can do that. It's a great pick. That's number 10, and that's one you could probably pick up local to you. And this next one isn't really a bottle at all, and I didn't expect this, but a lot of you talked about this whiskey. So let's jump in to number 9. So number 9 isn't actually a specific bottle, but something you all mentioned quite a lot in the thousands of comments when asking you about the whiskies you should try before you die. Look, there's a lot of scotches, there's a lot of bourbons around the world that we do have access to, but also don't forget about what you can get locally. So what is it for me? So it'll be something like, for example, this one here, the Pocono Totara cask, which is partly matured in a New Zealand native cask. So rather than just oak, it's like partially from a native tree where their coopers created a cask for, and this is good liquid too. And you know, maybe you're from, you know, I've been loving this one, but you know, you might want to get something local like the High Coast, wherever you are, Australia, Canada, the Netherlands. And I think it's just a really important concept, and just to think what's nearby, because things change from country to country. In Scotland, yeah, we can compare the age statement, you know, different Speyside whiskies to each other. So like if this was bourbon, I feel like the flavor range is kind of like this, because they're restricted by, you know, casks and using new oak casks and stuff. And then you've got Scotch, which can use different types of casks and stuff. And then you've got world whiskey, which it's super interesting. So don't forget about that. My pick would be probably that Pocono Totara cask. If you're visiting New Zealand, I think it's a great pick. And let's jump to number 8. Just a quick pause because I want to show you this. This is a watch that's made partly from reclaimed whiskey casks, or for you Scotch lovers, basically ex-bourbon barrels. So I'm grateful for today's sponsor, which is Original Grain. But they also do them in Taylor guitar, tonewood, military ammo crates, and a few others. And like this one has Japanese movement inside. And they also put a chunk of every sale into planting trees, supporting veterans with PTSD. But the thing I genuinely love about them is that when I wear this watch, it actually tells a story. Like the wood here had a life before it was on my wrist. A bit like a good Scotch whiskey aged in ex-bourbon cask. It's not just a watch with a logo slapped on, it's wood with a story. And the thing is, Father's Day is coming up. So if your old man's been hinting at something, this might be another pair of socks. So right now they've got up to 40% off site-wide. And if you use the code FIRSTFILL, that gets you an extra $50 off the top. And Planet, links in the description. So sponsorships like this fund my channel to make more videos, so cheers if you actually check them out and click the link. That actually means a lot. That actually is how this channel even runs in the first place. But yeah, click on the link and let's get back to the video. Okay, so the next whiskey on this list is a world whiskey again, but this is one you probably can find in your market. I guess when people were asked about single malt and they could only name 2 countries, they'd probably name Scotland, and the second they might come to is Japan. And this next whiskey is from Japan. Now, Japan's had like an interesting kind of arc kind of over the last, say, 10 years. I think it kind of went from not many people knew about it to it won some award, and then it got like super hyped, but they didn't have enough stock, so the prices went way up. Then it went through a stage where a lot of enthusiasts kind of got turned off it because the prices were so extreme. And for me personally, since I kind of started my whiskey channel, the reason I haven't talked about a lot of Japanese whiskey is that honestly, for the price, I can just get a lot of really good scotches that I think are equally as tasty and often a lot cheaper. So, and if you want to know more about Japanese whiskey, shout out to Kanpai Planet. He's like the guy that knows a lot more about Japanese whiskey, so I'll leave a link for him down in the description. But the whiskey that came up again and again from thousands of you was the Hibiki Harmony. Now, this is one I haven't had for a while. I do remember enjoying it, and I know the bottle was very beautiful, and a lot of you really treasure this whiskey. And you know, it's one of those ones that, yeah, you should try a Japanese whiskey before you die, and this one is one that you guys talked about a lot. It's a Suntory blend. It uses American oak, Spanish sherries. I believe it uses some Japanese Mizunara oak, which is like their oak. And on my flavor tree, that's going to be in that sort of fruit and floral section. On my flavor map, that's going to be in that southeast side. For those of you who bought the flavor map, check that out in the description. I put 100 of my top whiskies onto like a diagram spectrum, and a lot of you love that. Basically, when I try to sort of categorize the whiskey flavors, yeah, it's definitely that fruit and floral kind of section. Now, Hibiki Harmony can be hard to find. It can be a little expensive, but this next one is probably impossible to find, and I think that's the whole point. So let's jump to number 7. Next whiskey is one that's also a category, probably more than a single bottle, and I've kind of grouped it into 2 things. So one is a whiskey from a dead distillery, from a distillery that no longer exists. I think there's something special about when you try something that you'll never be able to try again, and there's something about when you're trying it, you just have to be in that moment. You can't think about the future, you can't think about the past. Well, I guess you're thinking about the past in context of this whiskey you're trying, but you really got to hone in and pay attention to this dram. And I did a whole video on trying like old whiskeys and stuff. I tried a Ladyburn. I did a whole video on it, and it was super interesting. Tried some Rosebanks and whiskeys that are so different to the whiskeys you can get today. So a lot of you mentioned that at some point on your whiskey journey, it's worth trying at least once a distillery which has died, or the other one a lot of you talked about is a birth year whiskey. So for me, that will be 1990, which I don't have yet, but that's on my list. I want to buy a whiskey from the 1990s, so that's something I've been thinking about as well. So, you know, there could be something like that, or maybe you're buying a gift for someone that's like a birth year whiskey. But often when you buy birth year whiskies or dead distilleries, it comes with a big price point. So that's why it fits into this list probably well. And a lot of you talked about those concepts because they're whiskeys to try before you die, but they're not like everyday whiskeys, you know, whiskeys you always have on the shelf, my like go-to perma shelf whiskeys. I think there's a great suggestion from all of you, but let's jump to something a little bit more tangible, a bit more practical, whiskeys you can actually buy, and whiskeys that are single malt scotches. Okay, so there's a few whiskeys that fit into this kind of category. I was going to kind of separate it by bottle, and there's just, I couldn't pick between the 2 of these because I think we had hundreds talk about one of them and hundreds talk about the other. Well, they're both actually from Speyside, which is a region in Scotland. You know, when you go to the airports or the shops, there are some common Speyside distilleries that get talked about. Your Macallans, your Glenlivets, your Glenfiddicks. But there are these enthusiast whiskies that enthusiasts go nuts over. And before you die, and if you're going down the whiskey rabbit hole, you need to try these ones. And these were the top 2. So the first is going to be a whiskey, Craigellachie 13. So many of you mentioned this. And what's cool is you can get this for a pretty decent price. In my market, it's a not bad price at all. It's 46% unchill filtered natural color. And the bottle like is so old school, and I love how they just kept it that way. What's interesting about this is that it uses worm tubs, and it has kind of this sort of heavy funk, kind of like industrialness, which is in the heavy funk category on the flavor tree. It feels like you're tasting something older than it should be, something from like a yesteryear sort of distillery. So this is good stuff, great recommendation. I've grouped it with this one, which is also a Space High whiskey. Look, I'm a fan of the 10-year-old, but you got to try something that's cask strength, and so many of you talked about this, and this is actually the whiskey I have bought the most, and it is the Ben Romick. So Ben Romick is often called the like Springbank of Speyside. I just love the profile, I love the spirit, and a lot of you were like, you need to try the Ben Romick before you die, and it's just super interesting. Floor malted. I kind of like the new redesign. Yeah, so this is a whiskey I buy again and again. Personally, I love the cask strength. I think it's good value for your money. My one, I'm getting 60.6%. It is from 2014 batch 3, and it's just fantastic stuff. So my one's a 10-year-old because it tells you when it's distilled and bottled. Yeah, so that was number 6, and I guess number 5, but let's jump to number 4. Now, this is something that a lot of you talked about that is probably a more recent thing for me, and that is getting a bottle. So to try this before you die, especially for you kind of Scotch lovers, those of you who only drink single malt and that's the only thing you try, is to try at least once before you die a premium bourbon or rye. I kind of associated bourbon with kind of like a uni party. I guess it was because here we don't get good access to probably the good stuff, but when you follow channels like SLB Drinks, shout out to them, the father-son duo, and you see their favorite whiskey of the year would be something like a Jack Daniels, and I'm like, Jack Daniels? Like the number 7 Jack Daniels. But what I didn't realize is there's so many levels to it. So like, they can play to both ends of the market. So say for a Jack Daniels, it could be something like getting a bonded rye. This one's fantastic, I love it. Or maybe something like one of their single barrels. Like there's super nice Jack Daniels. And honestly, I'm going through a real big Jack Daniels stage at the moment. It always tastes a little bit banana-y or something. And yeah, it's really interesting. And if you wanted to spend more money, you know, you could go for something really top tier, like, you know, a Booker's or something. But I can see why a lot of you talked about before you die, make sure you try a premium bourbon or a premium rye whiskey. Now, speaking of categories that kind of get written off, and probably a whiskey that, and probably a region that I definitely don't talk good enough about on my channel. For some reason, the whiskies can either be quite expensive or I don't have good access to it, which is weird because most of you do get good access to whiskey from this country, and that's great. Okay, this next one's a good one, and it was kind of one that caught me off guard because I haven't thought about this whiskey for a while. I do have one. It's not exactly the one that a lot of you talked about. The one you guys talked about is, it is quite expensive. Look, it's not a Jameson. It's kind of, we're going up some levels here. It is going to be the Redbreast 12. So a lot of you talked about the Redbreast 12, but specifically the Redbreast 12 cask strength, which I've actually never pulled the trigger on. The price kind of scared me off too many times. I sort of look at it and it's either like 200 or 300, like so expensive. But I have tried it and I do know what a gem it is. So maybe it is something with hundreds of you saying, you could try this before you die. Okay, maybe I do need to pull the trigger on it. And I find with it, it's a little bit different to say your Glencaddens, your Glenmorangies, because it's kind of light and it has that fruity notes. Even just the 12, this one's only 40%, but it's delicate and it has this almost like biscuity shortbread note. It's just a beautiful whiskey. So it's one that I would, for the 12 specifically, it's one of the whiskeys I recommend for beginners as a sipping whiskey, like not just one to put in cocktails, like one to really get your nose in there and get so many flavors out of. And if you want to level that up to the one hundreds of you talked about. Look, again, this list is not my list. It's like thousands and hundreds of you. So if any of you disagree with this list, well, I mean, this is just the consensus. That was just my picks because I'm like, it just feels very subjective. But to see overall, like, here's a bunch of whiskeys you should try before you die. Yeah, a Redbreast 12 cask strength. Is that one that you've tried? What do you think? I haven't found someone who like doesn't like the Redbreast 12. Like, who people might say, I prefer something stronger ABV, or the price is a bit too expensive on the cask strength, but I haven't met anyone who's like, no, the flavor profile, not a fan. So we get into number 2. So number 2 should be one that I'd say most of you have tried. And in terms of number 2, I have grouped it again into a category. So we talked about some Speyside whiskies. This time we're talking about an Islay whiskey, one of those smoky and peaty Islay whiskey. So the ones that came up probably the most, that were the most dominant, that whiskeys you should try before you die, were both Islay whiskies, which had a blend of bourbon cask and some ex-sherry casks. So one has been the classic, you know, Hoffman kind of bottle, the Lagavulin 16, bottled at 43%. I don't drink a lot of this these days. The price has gone up, but yeah, I would say it definitely is one to try before you die. I visited the distillery, it was super cool, and I still love Lagavulin. I think it's a fantastic distillery. And the other one that came up again and again, and this used to be one of the most popular whiskies, probably, you know, if you asked a group of whiskey enthusiasts 5 years ago, what was their top whiskey of all time? A lot of people would have said this, and is the Ardbeg Uigeadail. So this one's bottled at 54.2%, so a lot more punchy. It's kind of that bonfire mixed with some of those kind of sweeter elements. I'm a big fan of Ardbeg. Smoky whiskey is what got me into whiskey, and I think that's a really good pick. But look, at the end of the day, there was one whiskey that had the majority of the vote. So we're going to jump to number 1, but before we do that, if you enjoyed the video so far, give it a like, hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and if there's other lists you want to see, leave a comment down below about if there's other sort of things you want me to explore or talk about. I'd love to hear from you. I'm in the process of coming up with some new ideas for some videos, so yeah, let me know. But let's jump to the number 1. If you could only have one whiskey before you died, this will be it. And yeah, I think a lot of you will know exactly what it is. For whiskey enthusiasts, this will be obvious. If you're just getting into whiskey, you might not even have heard of it, and you might not have tried it because it's often on ballot. It's hard to get because so many whiskey enthusiasts want it so bad. It's from Campbelltown. If you were to name a distillery that if you had to name one whiskey that was that heavy funk whiskey, I think people would talk about this one. And, you know, we talked about the Ben Romick being the Springbank of Speyside, but what about the original? What about the Springbank? And that's what it is. It was the Springbank 10. Now, we also had a lot of people talk about the Springbank 12 cask strength, so I'm kind of going to group them together. But I think overall, yeah, you got to, at some point on your whiskey journey, try the Springbank. This is kind of the pinnacle of like whiskey for whiskey enthusiasts, not for like rich billionaires with their super yacht. They're going to be buying a 40-year-old Macallan or something. And it's not for people who like to like drink whiskey and put it in cocktails and do shots and that sort of thing. It's not about that. It's about taking your time, sharing it with friends, enjoying, exploring whiskey, getting the flavors out, and yeah, just getting your nose into a tulip style glass. This is really the pinnacle for you. It's because it's got that big heaviness. Let's just jump in. Oh, it's so good. I think I've probably sipped it too quick. I actually probably want to let it breathe a little bit longer. But straight away, it's complex. The finish is extremely long, has this full-bodied mouthfeel. It has like these fruity flavors, but it has almost like this kind of pickled, jammy, funky note kind of underneath it, the sort of workshop oil. They could use computers and technology and all these modern things, but they don't. They do everything the old way, and I think that's what makes the whiskey almost so special. So I'm keen to hear from you. Is there a whiskey that was missed out in this top 10 list that you think people should try before they die? Leave a comment down below, and if you enjoyed this, give it a like, hit subscribe, and yeah, above all, explore, share, and enjoy. Beauty.